Today, the 22nd of July 2014, NCPO held a meeting to consider various important issues. Some of the important issues that have been approved are as follows. For example, the NCPO has given approval to the Thailand's intention to participate as the founding member of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or AIIB. The approval to extend student loan project with income contingent repayment scheme. The approval for the provisions that are ready to be implemented immediately by Thailand upon the Trade Facilitation Agreement, or TFA's entry into force, also known as Category A, and also approval for the extension of the Learning via Satellite project. Today, during the NCPO's meeting on the 22nd of July 2014, the NCPO considered the intention to participate as the founding member of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or AIIB. The economic cluster of NCPO proposed for the approval of Thailand's intention to participate as the founding member of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank to maintain the opportunity for Thailand to participate in fundraising, voting allotment, administrative structure, good governance, as well as essential elements of the Memorandum of Understanding and AIIB Articles of Agreement. The Ministry of Commerce has been designated to discuss on the draft MOU and AIIB Articles of Agreement, considering the highest benefit of Thailand. After finishing the draft MOU and or the said agreement, these draft MOU and agreement will be submitted to head of NCPO or the Cabinet for reconsideration before signing. The Finance Ministry of China has initiated this new multilateral financial mechanism, or MFM, that will establish a financial institution known as Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank that will focus on lending to member countries' governments for use in the infrastructural development project. Thailand is one of the 22 countries invited to participate in this project as founding members. According to this project, China has proposed an authorized capital of $100 billion with the initial capital of $50 billion. 20% of this initial capital will be the paid-in capital from member countries, paid by installments in a principal currency or other currencies as agreed. 75% of the capital will come from the founding members, amount as determined by their corresponding GDPs. 25% of the capital will be from non-regional members, with the allocations of shares and amounts of investment depending on the future discussion. Asian countries attended the meeting to prepare for the setting up of the AIIB. Included 10 ASEAN member countries: China, South Korea, Mongolia, Pakistan, Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Nepal, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. And during the meeting of NCPO on the 22nd of July 2014, the Ministry of Finance also proposed to the head of NCPO to approve the provisions that are ready to be implemented immediately upon the Trade Facilitation Agreement, or TFA's entry into force, also known as Category A, and to notify such Category A provisions to the WTO within the 31st of July 2014. The Ministry of Finance considered that the notification of the provision that will be implemented immediately upon the Trade Facilitation Agreement's entry into force, or Category A, within the set time frame will reflect the positive sign that Thailand is complying with the WTO resolution, and will also reflect Thailand's commitment to international obligation and support the free trade under multilateral system, as well as to accelerate the expedition of TFA to entry into force. The Office of the National Economics and Social Development Board agreed as proposed by the Ministry of Finance, since it will be beneficial to Thai trade and investment, as well as building on the capacity of Thailand as the hub of producing and distributing goods of the region. These proposals submitted by the Ministry of Commerce is in accordance with the WTO's 9th Ministerial Conference approval of the draft of Trade Facilitation Agreement or TFA, with the aim to facilitate the import-export and transit for goods, which will benefit Thailand in reducing trade capital. In trade facilitation, commitments for developing and least developed countries can fall under 3 potential categories. Category A includes those provisions that will be implemented immediately upon the agreement's entry into force. Category B includes those commitments that will require a transition period. Category C involves those commitments that will require both a transition period and technical assistance, which is another procedure and need another 1 year to implement. The NCPO has also approved on the 22nd of July 2014 the extension of student loan project with income contingent repayment scheme. During 2006 and 2013, student loan project with income contingent repayment scheme has released the loan to 366,536 students with the total of 16,456.73 million baht. The proposal submitted to NCPO today is for the student loan project to use its own budget of 3,667.69 million baht and a budget allocated from the 2015 fiscal budget for 4,962.06 million baht to release the loan to students in financial needs in 2015 curriculum year with 98,157 original borrowers and 45,724 new borrowers entering into the first year of vocational and higher education, with a total students of 143,881 students. The Ministry of Commerce considered that there should be the extension of the implementation of the student loan with income contingent repayment scheme in the year 2015 and the incoming years until the new law has entered into force in order to reduce the burden of accessing to vocational and higher education levels so the borrowers can continue their education and to reduce risk of repayment should the students are unable to complete their education. The economic cluster of NCPO considered that the extension of the student loan will reduce the risk of repayment should the students are unable to complete their education in accordance with the law, regulation, principles and recommendations of relevant agencies. The social psychology cluster of NCPO also proposed the consideration on the project to expand the distant learning via satellite, with the budget for implementation of distant learning via satellite for 1.3 billion 624,760 baht. The social psychology cluster of NCPO approved the support budget for the central budget on the item of reserve budget for emergency case to the Ministry of Education. This issue is the implementation in accordance with the order of the head of NCPO, designated the head of social psychology cluster to resolve the problem of insufficient teachers in remote areas, as well as to create more access for education to the children, for instance, the distant learning via satellite. NCPO on the 22nd of July 2014 approved this project to extend the results of distant learning via satellite as proposed by the Ministry of Education. The budget should be under the consideration of the Bureau of the Budget. The project will equip more than 15,000 schools throughout the kingdom with distant learning satellites and receivers so that schools with shortage of teachers can now benefit from teaching given by teachers specializing in various fields who will conduct their lessons from Klai Kangwon School with the pictures and sound transmitted by satellite to the recipient schools.